Right friends, welcome back to Insight. This is 4th week of 2016, 25th January to 31st January. Look at the first statement. Now it is the time for 4th Industrial Revolution as felt by leaders at Davos in Switzerland. Recently, World Economic Forum Annual Summit was held at Davos in Switzerland. This is the resort city in Alps region of Switzerland, and several leaders from India, which include Arun Jaitley, Chandrababu Naidu, Raghuram Rajan, attended this Davos summit. It is the basic interaction of government leaders and people from private sector. They interact with each other at this Davos annual summit, and here people talked about the 4th Industrial Revolution. What do you understand by 4th Industrial Revolution? The first Industrial Revolution is after the advent of a steam engine, where muscle power was replaced by machines. So, in this first Industrial Revolution, muscle power was replaced by machines, and this started somewhere around mid of 18th century. That means after 1750 almost up to 1900, that was the first phase of Industrial Revolution. That means first Industrial Revolution. The second is the second Industrial Revolution. This pertains to the first half of 20th century, that is from around 1900 to 1950. First half of 20th century, where mass production of goods in factory line, like mass production of IC engines, mass production of cars, mass production of various capital goods took place. So, this is second Industrial Revolution. This is basically mass production of goods in a assembly line, you can say. That means goods will be produced one after the other in the assembly line. Please look into this picture. In the assembly line, several capital goods were rolled out one after the other. That is called assembly line production. This is the trait of Industrial Revolution of 1900 to 1950, or you can say first half of 20th century. And when you look at the second half of 20th century, that means after 1950 or 1960, it is the age of information technology, digital technology, internet revolution. So, all these things you are all well aware. So, the third Industrial Revolution pertains to information technology, digital technology and internet, all these things, third Industrial Revolution. And if you look at the fourth Industrial Revolution, the next phase is going to be 3D printing and everywhere smart robotics, then driverless cars. So, these are the things which are anticipated in the near future, and these are the things which are the example for fourth Industrial Revolution. So, the first half of 21st century can be termed as the phase of fourth Industrial Revolution, right? So, look into the next one. BSE Sensex fell to a 20-month low. It is fell by around 20% from its all-round peak of 30,000 around 20 months ago. Around 20 months ago, the BSE Sensex crossed around 30,000 and now it came down to around 24,000. There is a fall of around 20%. What are the reasons for it? The first and the foremost reason is, at the time, there were several expectations from the present government. That means the NDA government came to power in May 2014, and at that time there was a lot of expectations on this government, and accordingly the share prices increased like anything with the expectations. The second important point is, several countries in the world are following easy money policies, or you can say several countries are resorting to monetary stimulus or monetary easing policies. What are these monetary easing policies? This is known as expansionist monetary policies, followed by several advanced economies. What these countries are doing? These countries are keeping near zero interest rates. Second thing is, they are frequently resorting to buying of bonds. Because of these two things, lot of liquidity in the system, lot of money is available in the system, and because of monetary stimulus programs adopted by various advanced economies, capital is flowing into developing countries like India, which is resulting in asset price distortions. That means stock prices are increasing artificially, and now when the monetary policy is tightened in developed countries, then this will flow back to the country in the form of capital flight. So, the second reason is easy monetary stimulus policies adopted by developed countries is another reason for the distortions in asset prices in developing countries like India. Third important point is sharp slowdown in China, which is taking place in recent times. Fourth important point is fall in global commodity prices, even up to 40%, 50%. If you look at the prices of iron ore, copper, aluminium, all these prices fell by around 40 to 50%. If you look at the price of oil across the world, oil price fell by around 70 to 75%. So, these are all the reasons, and the last one is negative sentiment across the world. So, with all these reasons, this BSE Sensex fell to a 20-month low, and some people call it a course correction. What is course correction? It increased with a lot of expectations when this NDA government came to power, and ultimately it has to correct itself. That is known as course correction. Right? So, these are all the reasons for fall in stock prices in recent times. Union government granted infrastructure status to shipyard industry, which include shipbuilding and ship repairs. So, what is the advantage of granting infrastructure status? By granting infrastructure status, long-term funds can be accessed at lower rates of interest. That is one advantage. Second important point is long-term project loans can be structured in a flexible way. And third important point is the tenure of the loan can be kept equivalent to the economic life of the asset. If the economic life of the asset is 30 years or 35 years, the tenure of the loans can also be kept or stretched to such longer duration. And another important point is it can claim benefits under Income Tax Act, and it can also issue infrastructure bonds at lower interest rates, and sometimes government may allow tax-free bonds also, so as to give boost to the infrastructure sector. So, it is a good sign for shipyard industry, and Union government has rightly granted infrastructure status to it. Bank of Japan introduced a negative rate policy of minus 0.1%. What the advanced economies are doing, I will tell you in a nutshell. Almost all the advanced economies are following easy money policies because the growth is not there in advanced economies. Several countries are reeling under low growth rates or recession. Recession means if there is a negative growth rate for 2 consecutive quarters, that is known as recession. Several countries, several advanced economies in the world are reeling under low growth rates as well as recession, and so as to improve inflation at least up to 2%. And please don't forget, developed countries, the major problem is not having inflation, and for developing countries the major problem is more inflation. There is a tactical difference between the economies of developed countries and developing countries. Developed countries are suffering from low inflation and developing countries are suffering from high inflation. And what the developed countries are doing for the past several years? 2 things they are doing primarily. One is they are keeping interest rates at near zero levels. That means the interest rates paid by the borrowers are substantially low, and the interest rates on bonds are substantially low, because of which lot of money is available in the system. Several advanced economies are resorting to bond buying program. Frequently they are purchasing government bonds so that more money will be available in the system. This is the second point. Third important point which the Bank of Japan has done now and European Central Bank has done almost a year ago is negative interest rates. What is this negative interest rate? This negative interest rate is when banks want to park excess cash with central bank. When banks want to park excess cash with central bank, in turn banks have to pay 0.1% to central bank. Normally when banks are depositing money with central bank will pay something to bank. In India, you see, if banks are parking cash with Reserve Bank of India, Reserve Bank will pay some interest at the reverse repo rate. At reverse repo rate, Reserve Bank of India will pay interest to banks if banks are parking excess money with Reserve Bank of India. And now what Bank of Japan has done is, if banks want to park excess cash with Bank of Japan, then banks have to pay back in return. What is the message these central banks are giving? Please don't park cash with us. Please go for excessive lending. Please lend as much as possible. Don't keep money with us. That is the message given by Bank of Japan. So, this negative interest rate policy of 0.1% will lead to further easy money policy in advanced economies. Right friends, look into the next one. At least 39 migrants including several children have drowned trying to cross Aegean Sea from Turkey to Greece. Where is this Aegean Sea? Please look into this. This Aegean Sea is situated between Turkey and Greece. Several Greece islands are situated in the sea between Turkey and Greece. You can say this Aegean Sea is the extension of Mediterranean Sea. And please don't forget, Syria has got a long border with Turkey, and the border is also porous, and several people are crossing from Syria to Turkey, and subsequently they are trying to escape to European countries, and accordingly by boats they are trying to cross this Aegean Sea, and several people are losing their lives while crossing this Aegean Sea. So if someone says Aegean Sea, you can say that is extension of Mediterranean Sea, and it is situated between Turkey and Greece. The Prime Minister stated that his aim is not to eliminate subsidies but to rationalize and target them. Subsidies are basically required for empowerment and also for equity. There is a lot of rich-poor gap in this country, and so as to take care of the downtrodden people, these subsidies are required, and the Prime Minister stated his policy is not to eliminate subsidies but to rationalize and target them. Whoever deserves, subsidy will be given. Whoever does not deserve, subsidy will not be given. That is the policy of merit subsidies. Merit subsidies means subsidies are to be given to the persons whoever deserve it. That is the reason in LPG also government recently came up with Give It Up campaign. Please voluntarily give it up. Then the persons whoever are earning 10 lakhs or more income as per their income tax returns have to forego this LPG subsidy. So this is basically to target merit subsidies. The persons whoever deserve subsidies are to get, but rich persons should not get subsidies. That is the meaning of this sentence, and I would like to add one more point. Our total subsidies as per 2015-16 budget are around 2.27 lakh crores, and out of which the food subsidy accounts for the highest. If someone asks which accounts for the highest in Indian subsidies, food subsidy is the highest, then fertilizer subsidy. Out of the entire fertilizer subsidy, urea accounts for the maximum. Then comes petroleum subsidy, and please don't forget, on petrol and diesel there is no subsidy. Subsidy is there only on LPG and kerosene, right? So the highest subsidies, food subsidies in our country. Look at the last one. The Supreme Court will hear in open court a curative petition challenging its verdict criminalizing homosexuality in the country. This is all about Section 377 of Indian Penal Code. Section 377 of Indian Penal Code says homosexuality is punishable. That is, sexual intercourse against the order of nature is punishable. That is as per Indian Penal Code 377. Delhi High Court in the year 2009 quashed it, and subsequently in the year 2013 Supreme Court gave its judgment upholding the validity of Section 377. After its judgment, review petition was filed in 2014, and in the review petition also, Supreme Court upheld the validity of Section 377. First is original judgment, then comes review petition, and the last stage is curative petition, and this curative petition is the last judicial resort available for redressal of grievance in the court, and this is normally held by judges in chamber, but in very rare cases these are given an open court hearing. So, curative petition, if someone says curative petition is the last judicial resort, the first one is judgment, next review petition, the last one is curative petition, and this issue of section 377 is referred to larger constitutional bench. We are going to discuss on this in the lecture part of 5th week. Please listen to it. Right friends, with this let us conclude Insight. Have a nice day. Thank you.